And now, let's join Maggie Linton on Sirius Urban View, Channel 110.
Welcome back. Tomorrow, the story of two sisters who were tireless supporters of women and human rights back during the Gilded Age, and info on how to get Wall Street to pay you back when you're a victim of fraud. But we continue right now with a man who just might be able to prevent you from ever becoming a scam victim and losing money. Gene Natali Jr. is a financial expert who insists that financial courses need to be taught in schools. Amen. He co-authored with Matt Kabbalah the award-winning book, The Missing Semester. Your financial choices have consequences. Will you choose wisely? Welcome, Gene.
Maggie, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. Gene is also a senior vice president of C.S. McKee, LP, a Pittsburgh-based investment firm. When I saw your book, I thought, amen. And you just heard me say it. I just can't believe that schools go through, starting at a very early age, not teaching kids more financial responsibility. They think mom and dad are the bank so often, don't they?
They do, and to that comment, there's no reason this conversation couldn't be had at homes across the country as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, starting it at home is probably the absolute best place. I know my parents sure did, but the need for it being done in schools because they aren't getting it home. Talk about that.
Well, the advantage if it's done in the schools, and put yourself in the shoes of an educator or a superintendent or a college professor, this is a subject that impacts all 100% of your student body. Many students are already making money choices, but all will the day they graduate. So why would we not, the question asked is why would we not prepare these students for those money choices that are waiting for them?
Let's talk about even then, before then. So often you see students, number one, struggling to get loans for going to school. Number two, not working enough to meet some of their financial demands. And even as they walk out of school, they are already so often in major debt.
There's an interesting article in the Wall Street Journal, I think it was yesterday, talking about how students are using student loans to fund their cost of living. I just preface that because the average college student is going to graduate with close to $30,000 in student loans this year. I personally don't believe that is the student debt crisis, and that's because education remains such a great form of empowerment in our country. The crisis is what we're talking about. It's that we're not teaching these students how to repay that $30,000, so they make the one or two financial mistakes around that debt, and it compounds into a problem that can last a lifetime, literally.
All right, let's begin with what they should learn first.
The dad in me is saying the student loans and the credit card, but I've had the great privilege of interacting with high school and college students across the country, and I've found that when you talk to the credit card and the student loans, you do sometimes get the blank stares. So when you take the opposite angle and speak to the opportunities that they have simply because of their age, compound interest, starting an investment tool like a Roth IRA, which you could start with $1,000. They start to see what that money can do for them over their lifetime, and you start to see the light bulbs go off over their head. And to give you a quick example, I was talking at a college on Tuesday of last week at a university here in Pittsburgh, and it was a packed house, Maggie, which tells you how interested students are in this subject. And about 20 students stuck around afterwards, and one of the young men said, I have $20,000 in student loans, and I've been really scared about how I was going to pay it back. But he said, holy cow, I'm going to live on ramen noodles for the next year because I want to start saving. Mm-hmm. So it was the inspiration that got him thinking that way, though.
Well, that way too often, not just students, but just people in general don't seem to understand that you have to start saving as early as you can so that you can have a better life throughout your whole life.
Absolutely. It's not, living a life of not able to spend anything. It's simply it's simply in a sentence, it's allowing your saving needs to dictate your spendings. Because once you meet your savings goals, go out to town, have a ton of fun spending that money you've worked hard to earn. But as I can and speak to, and I'm sure you can as well, there's a lot of sleepless nights when you're nervous about money. So if you can avoid putting yourself in that situation, why not do it?
Very true. Folks, if you have any questions or comments, you certainly can join us in the discussion. It is 866-801-8255. Once again, 866-801-8255. As we look, you talk a lot about college students, and you were just talking about going to seminars, but this is something that maybe should even start in grade school, and teaching kids to save for something that they may want just as a class or something, and it could be a way of learning how to work for your pay.
Oh, absolutely. And I know groups like Junior Achievement, and I know Vanguard's My Classroom Economy, and there's other good ones out there, are working hard to get into these schools at younger ages. I don't know why it's not an easier decision for the schools. And I can relate more at the high school level, but I've been in high school classrooms where the students are sharing the required courses they have to take as juniors and seniors. And you step back and say, why? And the students are laughing as they're talking about this because they're nervous about their college decision. To give you one more example from the middle part of PA, a student her superintendent came into the presentation. He wanted to observe, and the student said, my question isn't for Gene, it's for the superintendent. She said, why'd you wait till now? We're all graduating in 3 months. This is what we need to know. Mm-hmm. And the superintendent said, you know what, you're right, and we're gonna change that moving forward.
And that's one of the things that they need to do, definitely. Once again, we're talking with financial expert Gene Natali. His book, co-authored with Matt Kabbalah, is The Missing Semester, Your Financial Choices Have Consequences. Will You Choose Wisely? And one of the things that's interesting about learning also is parents finding out more about what need to be taught, because they're not doing it right either.
Absolutely. And
this book is really for them.
We actually have had groups across the country buy the book, give it to parents. Say, parents, read this first, then sit down and talk with your kids while they are reading it. But another way, to the parents that are listening in your audience right now that might think their kids aren't interested, just talk with them. Talk with them once or twice. Feel it out, because we personally believe that these students are very interested. And we've seen countless examples in the classroom. Yeah. A fun assignment that some of the high schools do, they have the high school students ask their parents or guardian what the biggest money mistake they made when they were younger was, and then get permission to share that experience with their classmates. And I've been in the classroom as they're sharing these, and sure, the kids are laughing at their parents' mistakes, but more importantly, they're learning not to make them themselves. Mm-hmm. So there's ways to make this fun also.
Yeah, very true. We've got a call from Tony in Canada. Go ahead, Tony.
Hey, how you doing, Maggie?
Good, and you?
As always, enjoying the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Couple of comments. First, as far as the reason why it's not in schools, is because it's of no interest to the powers that be, because the system is designed to keep people in debt. They want you to be a slave to them financially. So they're not going to teach you. That's why it's up to the parents. And what I did with my two children is that the time that they hit junior high, I made them clock in, clock out, sit down with them, told them your ability to earn money is tied to your ability to perform in society. So when they got in trouble, I would court-martial and take money from them. But to this day, I've had no problem with my children. They're both financially independent. They're both doing great. I never get calls, hey, I need money. But you have to tag, because nobody taught me. I just happened to get lucky and meet an older gentleman that taught me about money and the relationship of money. You have to understand how money is tied to everything that you do in life.
Yeah. I call it green power.
Yeah, it is definitely. You have to understand that. And the one thing that goes along with the money is our children need to become politically savvy, too, because the both are tied so hand in hand together.
Very true.
So y'all guys have a good day. I'm going to sit back and keep enjoying the conference.
Okay. Thank you, Tony, for some really good points. Gene, what do you have to add to that?
I'm going to comment on, first, Tony, congratulations on doing the right thing with your kids. It's a great starting point. And to the comment you started with, not that schools, it's not of interest to powers that be. I actually attended a conference last fall where educators made that exact same comment. They said, it was a college conference. They said, our schools want our students to learn this, but they don't want to implement it until after they graduate. So there's some validity to that point.
Yeah, and see, that just doesn't make sense to me. The sooner you learn, the better off you are. We've got a call from Pat in Maryland. Go ahead, Pat.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Actually, I just wanted to make a comment, and I totally agree with Tony. There are powers to be that do not want this to happen. But some years ago, my children were actually grown, but I still belonged to a parent group. So we ran an entrepreneurship camp for the children during the summer. There was a lady who had a concept called the lemonade stand, where the children will learn how to not only build a business, but at the very end, they would have to showcase their business. And in the interim, we had certified teachers who came in to increase their reading skills as well as their math skills. They were introduced to people who had businesses. They were introduced to people who worked in the stock market. And so we had a full range of things, but unfortunately we didn't get the support of not the parents, but we didn't get the support of the legislators because we needed to use one of the schools as the place to have it. As a matter of fact, one of the legislators I would not vote for him today because of that, that he did not want to see these children. This was a majority African-American community, and we just did not get that support. Unfortunately, I was unable to carry it on. I had to work during the summer. This was the summer that I took off because I was tired of my own. This year, I decided to purchase for the three children, my grandchildren who are able to count, ATM machines. Because I always told my children when they were young, when they said, well, Mom, we can get it out of the ATM machines, I said, well, you got to put it in order to get it out.
Yeah.
And so when I went to see my daughter and with her two children just the other week, they were like so happy. One had like $46 in his and the other one had like $20. And so they're collecting money as opposed to gifts from their other uncles and aunts so that they could actually save their money. So I thought that would put them on the right path. So from now on, I'll give them money. No more toys.
Yeah, that's a good idea. ATM machines. Who knows? Gene, you want to comment? Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, and as Pat was talking, I was thinking a little bit of the other side of the story as well, because there are a lot of headwinds, which is sad because this is a subject that students are in control of. But there are a lot of good folks and good groups that are working hard to help our students. So I think don't let the headwinds get in front of us. Find those groups and attach yourselves to them, because we are all creatures of habit. And I think that's why it is so important to have these conversations with our children, either around the dinner table or in the classrooms, because if we can instill these good money habits, if we can teach our students that they are in control of their financial choices, and the headwinds won't impact them as much as they could.
Oh, thank you. I'm looking forward to getting your book.
All right. Thank you so much, Pat. Folks, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll continue with financial expert Gene Natali, and his book again is The Missing Semester. Stay tuned.
We'll be right back with more conversation about today's hottest topics right after this short break. This is the Maggie Linton Show on Sirius XM Urban View. And now let's join Maggie Linton on Sirius XM Urban View, Channel 110.
Well, welcome back. We continue with financial expert Gene Natali Jr. as we discuss closing the financial education gap. You know, I was just glanced at TV, and the president's 2015 budget just got delivered to Congress. And I thought, gosh, we're going to be paying for that again, aren't we? With so many things, we wind up being the payers, and we have to be financially secure to do that, too. Gene?
Yes,
yeah.
Maggie. Yeah.
We do have to be financially secure to pay for that, don't we?
We do, and you know, the things like taxes are kind of always put in the out of control bucket, which again, to the theme of this conversation, speaks to the importance of teaching our students what they do have control over and how they can make good decisions around that.
And also how you can prepare yourself better for taxes by not just, like you were just mentioning, starting in a Roth IRA earlier, but also if you're going to be working, even if it's part-time, looking for some kind of advantage through your companies with 401ks or whatever the case may be.
Oh, absolutely, and make sure you check that box. So the recent graduates are getting that first job. One of the big mistakes a lot of young workers make is not opting into their 401k plan. Make sure you check that box so you get those dollars you're contributing invested.
Well, not only that, they not only would they be missing out on what I call, in a sense, the free money, but also so many of them think, well, I can't do it because I've got to pay back my loans or pay back so much other things. And it's the old rule of you got to pay yourself first in order to be able to get ahead.
It 100% is. Still take advantage of that free money in the 401ks. I might steal that anomaly from you. I like that. Absolutely. We break it down a little bit differently. Obligations are what you must address first. Yes, your student loan payments are an obligation. After you meet your obligations and your needs, then you have time for the wants, for having some fun. And there's generally the students that we talk to, and that's actually one of the questions. We put on a student panel every spring, Maggie, and one of the questions we ask the students on the panel is, well, geez, oh man, this doesn't sound like any fun. How do you still have fun when you're paying back your student loans and starting to save? And there's a ton of ways to have fun.
And there are a ton of ways to have fun, and a lot of them don't always have to cost money either. Because you look at, say, here in Washington, D.C., so many free museums, which also give a lot of time free programs that people can go to and enjoy and learn something at the same time.
Oh, absolutely. And every city has events like that. The community activity bulletins. There's a ton of ways to have fun. And kind of like we were talking about in the first segment of the show, it is so much easier to sleep at night when you don't have the burdens of the debt and the obligations. My wife and I had six-figure debt when we got married. It is scary to sleep at night with that, and it is worth the 2 to 3 to 4, the 10 years of sacrifice to get out of that, whatever it might be. It is worth it because you sleep a heck of a lot better when it's gone.
Oh, for sure, definitely. As we begin looking at college students in particular, as they're coming out of class, out of school, one of the things to do is not get bogged down with credit cards.
Yes, absolutely. The credit card trap, believe it or not, and this is not a question I get in high schools, this is a question I get a lot in college classrooms. One, I always ask the question, if I were to give you a $500 credit card, emphasizing credit card, what would you spend it on? And they nearly unanimously start saying what they're going to buy versus saying, well, wait, it's a credit card. I'm not going to buy anything. So then you learn that a credit card's not free money. But we do an example where we show if you had a credit card and you spent that full $500, and then, oh no, now you have to pay it back, but you don't have a job. So you're only able to make the minimum payment. What that means over your lifetime. Because I've helped young folks who had a credit card balance as high as credit card interest rate as high as 32%.
Oh.
20% is probably more realistic for your students, your college and recent graduates. But paying the minimum on a 20% credit card is scary stuff. And the question that we get commonly before this example, after this example, the question never comes. The question is, well, don't I need to keep a credit balance to improve my credit score? So said differently, so don't I need to be paying a 20% interest rate to improve my credit score?
No.
Absolutely not.
I mean, if you're waiting for me to answer that one, let me say no. and you can stop from even having to do that by doing a number of different things. Mm-hmm. And you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, and I guess first just to our theme all along here, when you get bogged down with a 20%, if you have $1,000, to put the numbers on this, $1,000 credit card balance, 20% interest rate, that's an extra $200 that you're going to be going. That's real money. That's real dollars that you're not able to spend elsewhere. So if you are in that boat, work to get out of it. Here's an example of why it's so important to also not get bogged down. to your specific question, because if you are bogged down with the credit card or the debt and you can't take advantage of an opportunity, here's a question we like to ask, Maggie. Two scenarios, scenario A and scenario B. And scenario A presumes that you or I saves $3 a day. $3 a day, every day from age 25 to 35, and nothing thereafter. Scenario B presumes that you or I save that same $3 a day, but we don't start until the age of 35. But we save that $3 a day from the age of 35 to 65. And we always ask,
more money?
Who's going to have more money? To the students in the classroom, who's going to have more money? Well, they know it's a trick question given the theme. Scenario A ends up with almost twice the savings at the age of 65 because of compound interest.
Mm-hmm.
Twice the savings.
And dollar cost averaging.
Dollar cost averaging. You're working for, you're saving for 1/3 of the time you just started when you're a little bit younger. So these are the things we want to make these high school, these college students aware of, because it's that opportunity. You don't get a second chance at it. Sure, there are ways to catch up, lots of ways to catch up, but if you don't have to play catch up, it's even better.
Yeah. I'm going back to growing up. My parents were, because they were independent business people, they had to save their own money. And whenever someone would give my sister and I money as a gift, no matter what it was, half would always go into a savings account. We didn't have checking accounts back then. We had savings accounts. And so it was always there. And I remember, leaving for college and coming back home and staying for a year, working. And my parents made me pay $50 a month to stay at their home. Well, at the end of that year, because of, going back to school, and they gave me that money back, but it had interest on it too. And that makes a big difference. They didn't need the $50 a month. It was making me responsible for who I was. And that's one of the points in your book is you are responsible. The person is responsible for their debts as well as their success.
Yep, and it's very empowering when we realize that as individuals. There's so much in life that is out of our control, so take advantage of what we do have control over. I was smiling as you were talking. My grandparents did the same thing for my brother and sister and I. They gave us a savings bond every year on our birthday. Mm-hmm. And when we I remember that first time we realized, it said $50 as well. But at the time we got it, it wasn't worth $50. We had to wait.
7 years.
10, 15, 18 years in the future. Yeah. But boy, oh boy, when we got into college and they were worth that $50, we did learn the time value of money. We learned the value of saving it. They taught us a lesson, absolutely.
Yeah, and people should know that after, 44 years, the savings bond does not acquire any more money or something like that. And we found this out because my husband's mom used to do the savings bond thing all the time too, and she had savings bonds, that she had made out for the kids every single month. She would, make sure they got it. And when we started looking at some of those aged savings bonds, it was pretty amazing how much money she had saved.
Absolutely. One of the questions you had said in the first one, too, is I'm smiling as we're having this conversation. Mm-hmm. I have 3 daughters at home. The oldest is 3.5. The youngest is 3 months. And we watch Mickey Mouse Clubhouse with the kids occasionally. And Mickey has a piggy bank in one, so we do chores around the home where we give the older 2 a penny or a nickel. And they are so happy to put that coin in their piggy bank. And it's so much fun just to see, and they know that when the piggy bank is full, they get to have half of it for the toy store, but the other half is going to go into the bank. So even at 3.5, it's fun to have these conversations and to see how excited she gets to make her bed and get a penny for the piggy bank.
Well, at least you're keeping it reasonable. I was listening to the radio the other day, and someone was saying that the average person now for a tooth is $5. And I'm going, $5? Are you kidding me? 50 cents maybe, a quarter for certain ones, but $5 a tooth? What are you going to do when, that's ridiculous.
Not at our household. It's $1.
Yeah, exactly. But it's also the value of money and understanding that you got to be responsible, and that's also showing responsibility from the parents too.
You are exact. That is a very accurate statement, which is, again, why it'd be so fun to see parents having these conversations with kids across the country. It's a subject. I'll be honest. My parents, we never talked about money at home. What my parents did do was have us start working at a very young age, about the age of 12. So we learned the value of a dollar, but I never knew, what my dad made or how we paid the bills or how we met the bills until later in life. And that's important stuff to talk about with high school and college kids. Here's how we're going to pay for college. Here's why your college choice matters.
Yeah. Well, listen, thank you. Wonderful book. Many thanks to financial expert Gene Natali Jr. His book, co-authored with Matt Kabbalah, is The Missing Semester. It's for everyone, and your financial choices have consequences. Will you choose wisely? It's available at Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com. Also, check the website, themissingsemester.com. Coming up tomorrow, the story of two sisters who fought for women and human rights during the Gilded Age, and info on how to get Wall Street to pay you back when you're a victim of fraud. You've been listening to The Maggie Linton Show.